Mr. A here, saying, how y'all doing?
Yo! Are you ready to rumble? Or should I say tumble? Cause I don't stumble or fumble like a cracker by gumbo. Standing on the ground, black beat, pound, coming worms and drums, and I'm doing it on my terms.
Welcome to the Rumble. We are back and better than ever, helping you stay ready so you don't have to get ready. We don't want you sucker punch, so we're here each and every week helping you keep your guard up. I am Jeremy Lavelle with Remedy Claims Consulting at Claims Coach on Instagram and TikTok. They just call me the mouth of the South. And alongside of me is the catastrophe queen, the claim dame, Miss Jessica Odell, and the candidly cajoling, the clamorously cavort, the one, the only, baby cakes, Miss Donna Lavelle. How's everybody doing today?
Good.
We're actually recording this just before Thanksgiving, so it's kind of a dead week for a lot of people, including Donna.
I don't know about dead. I'm like 100 miles an hour because the next couple days might be a little dead. Today's just like back to back meetings, coordination.
Well, I think your organization is a lot bigger than my organization is. So everything I'm doing is trying to get a hold of people at carriers, and everyone is mysteriously on vacation. So I'm going to give people a tip. Don't have a loss during Thanksgiving because nobody works at an insurance carrier, especially in the claims department, evidently during Thanksgiving, because I certainly can't get a hold of anybody.
They hardly work there anytime.
Unless it's to tell me my claim's not approved. They're always there for that. So I'm very, very happy about that. I got a denial back just the other day on something, and they changed the reason they denied it from the original denial letter. So I write this letter in rebuttal to their reason to deny it that basically just blows it out of the water. And so they sent another denial changing their reason for denial. So now I've got to write another letter, and the new reason is just as ridiculous. So that's going to be fun that I have to get into. But hey, baby cakes, do we have any fun facts?
We do. Fun Facts with Baby Cakes is brought to you by Inc., the best way to get paid after a property claim. Inc. Inc. Save time, get paid. So this week is going to kind of be fun facts with Jeremy, because you have a fun fact. But I have one really quick. And I don't know if I can pronounce this. An ultra crepidarian is someone who gives opinions on things they know nothing about.
Oh, so just about every dad on the planet?
Yes, and every engineer on the planet.
Every engineer, yeah.
Yeah. Ultra crepidarians.
Well, these shingles can be repaired.
Have you ever repaired a shingle?
No. Mm-mm. But I am an engineer. So
what's your fun fact?
So the fun fact that some of you probably know this about me, and if you're a big time history buff, you've probably correlated the last names, but with us so close to the anniversary of the Kennedy assassination, my fun fact is this: my great uncle, so my dad's uncle, was a Dallas police officer, and he was handcuffed to Lee Harvey Oswald when Lee Harvey Oswald got shot by Jack Ruby. So he's kind of the taller gentleman in the black and white photo that appears to have like a white or a gray suit on. It's actually a tan suit. And if you're interested what that suit looks like, there you can actually visit the 6th floor museum and hear all about him. And he recently passed just like a couple of years ago, 2
years ago.
Wasn't it it was during the pandemic, so it may be almost 3 years ago that he passed away.
Yes. Yeah.
It was during the pandemic, I believe. And so it was almost 3 years ago, and I was actually in the motorcade from the church to the cemetery. And for those of you in the Dallas area, over on the east side of Dallas, they shut down Interstate 30 for this motorcade, and it was I believe it was on a Saturday. And it may have been during a week.
It was during the week.
It was during the week. Okay. Yeah. So it was very close to, it was probably 2 or 3 o'clock or somewhere around that time. And so you can imagine how frustrating it was to have an entire interstate shut down. But, and so I could see the traffic sort of around trying to wait to get back onto Interstate 30 until that motorcade cleared. So
did he have any knowledge of whether there was one gunman or two?
So, My guess is that he did have knowledge, but what he publicly always said is that he believed that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone, which is what I would say as well, on the chance that there was a conspiracy. Do you know what I mean? Because those are things that if you're right, or even if you're guessing and you're guessing right, you're digging too much, and there was some sort of conspiracy attached to it, I think it's the better part of self-preservation to kind of keep that stuff to yourself.
So why were they going out that door?
Actually, my uncle actually said that that's a really dumb place to try to, because they went down through a tunnel in the parking garage, basically because they thought that it would be safer. But my uncle was aware that the press was already there, and they absolutely 100% insisted that that's the way they take them out. So it was the Secret Service that insisted that, I believe it was the Secret Service that insisted that he be taken out that way. And lo and behold, that is where Jack Ruby laid in wait to end Lee Harvey Oswald's life. And here's an interesting thing that you can't tell from the picture. So when Jack shot Ruby, he shot him sort of in the left side of the abdomen, and the bullet lodged in the right side of on his right side, just, kind of where the love handle would be, so to speak.
When Jack shot Oswald. You said when Jack shot Ruby.
Oh, I'm sorry. When Jack shot Oswald. I'm sorry. It kind of lodged in kind of like where your love handle would be. And my uncle told me he felt very, very fortunate that it didn't, it wasn't an in and out. It wasn't a through and through injury, because it would have hit him. But interestingly enough, DC Graves was the guy on the other side of Oswald. And what he did is he put his thumb between the hammer and the chamber of the gun so that he could not squeeze off another round. And so he tried to squeeze, because it was a double action pistol. And so he did squeeze off another round. And I believe it broke. I don't know for sure, but I think my uncle told me that it actually broke his thumb when that hammer hit his thumb, because he tried to squeeze off another round, but he got his thumb between the hammer and the chamber of that revolver. So that's my fun fact. And now you know, and knowing's half the bullshit.
Awesome.
So there we go, guys. We've got an incredible show for you today. I think the best part of this is I am pitching the keys to the bus over to my lovely co-host, Miss Jessica Odell. We are going to be talking about all things depositions today. And I'm looking forward to this. So and I know that I'm going to have a lot of questions. I personally am not very experienced in depositions. Jess has done a lot of them. And this is really kind of out of her mind. And I am really looking forward to this discussion, because not only do I have questions, I feel like I would be pretty prepared just kind of going in blind. But I bet that I'm not, even though I'm pretty confident in my way to, handle an attorney. But I'm sure that they would mop the floor with me, believe it or not. But we're going to get into all things depositions. Make sure you drop your questions and comments in the chat below. If you have questions, we'll do our best to get back to you and give you the best possible answer. I am looking forward to this. And without further ado, let's get into it, because round one starts right after this. Public adjusters, listen up. It's Jeremy Lavelle, owner of Remedy Claims Consulting, host of The Rumble, and most importantly, your claims coach. Public adjuster training is one of the hardest things to find. Sure, you can take some online seminars, you can show up to conferences, but none of them tailor training just for you until now. Whether you need to learn how to estimate, scope, negotiate, or prospect, I can help you drill down on the skills you want to develop. Maybe you're just starting out and you need to learn the claims process from A to Z, or you're just wanting help on strategy on a specific claim. I can help you find the traction you were looking for and learn how to truly control the narrative in the ever-changing world of claims. You can reach out to me directly at 888-596-8772, or you can find me on the web at remedyclaims.com and just click Get Started. That's 888-596-8772 or remedyclaims.com and click Get Started. You can even shoot me an email at jeremy@remedyclaims.com. That's JEROMY@remedyclaims.com. It's time to move your career to the next level. Round one how to be prepared. So just as I said, here's the keys, and let's start the engine up. Insert engine sound.
You don't have to say that. I know what to do.
So what can we do, Jess, to get ready? I mean, what are some of those things there? I know a lot of attorneys will prep you prior to a deposition, but what should we be doing?
Well, first, before I dive in, I want people to understand where this topic is coming from and why it's so near and dear to my heart. I am not an expert at depositions in terms of how to do one the right way. What I might be is a poster child for what not to do. So I have plenty of pointers, and I can't name the law firm, but there's a law firm out there that, bless their hearts, they finally one day say, Jess, you've done several of these, and we just have to let you know you suck. And I said, thank you for being honest with me. Thank you for, I need this feedback. There's no classes out there for public adjusters to take on how to do a deposition.
Yep,
some of us think, oh, well, this is just cut and dry. You just go in and you answer the questions. No. There's so many things to do and not to do, and you think you're helping by just answering questions, and you may actually be harming. And I didn't realize I had been doing that. So I thank my angel law firm for pulling me aside, and they spent a solid 2.5-3 hours coaching me. The preparing for part I had done, right? So that is understanding your case. Take in advance, request from the attorney or whomever, who's request the file. Can you please let me know what file it is that we're doing? Maybe a lot of the ones that I had done depositions for were 2 and 3 years old already. A lot of them were Hurricane Laura. And so I had to request the file. Then you go through the file. And I don't mean like the night before at, 11 p.m. I mean, do it the week before. Prepare any questions that you might have. If you feel like you're missing something, it's an opportunity to go, hey, I think I'm missing this piece of information. Yep, yes, you are. I forgot. It's over here. Here it is. What you don't want is to get into the deposition and go, oh, I didn't even know that existed. Well, you didn't ask for it either. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you kind of got to help the attorneys help you too, as the person being deposed. So review the file. Do you have the photos, the documentation, the evidence? Are there mold reports that are supposed to be in there, you think? If something's not adding up or making sense, ask for it.
So it's not really it's not really just read the file. It's educate yourself on it and make sure that you understand the data and the information that's in there. At a very strong or intimate level. You've got to know the data, the facts that are coming through, because they're going to bust all that down, right?
They will. And the more that you have studied that file, the less painful it is, the less you're going to be fumbling around and going, those little things, right? You don't want to look, like you're not a credible, part of this claim or this file, this case. You want to present yourself as the expert on that file. Unfortunately, the depositions I had participated in, it was for a firm that I had worked for, where the firm's owner had passed away. And that left, 9 depositions right off the bat that somebody needed to fill ASAP, because I had been, the next in line for management and things like that, the next in the chain. They asked me to fill in the gaps. So on a lot of them, I didn't even inspect the loss. I didn't write the estimate, but I had to provide an expert opinion.
Sure.
As somebody who knew the ins and outs and the protocols and the processes and procedures of the firm. So, not every time are you going to be deposed as the person who inspected or wrote the estimate. I mean, if you're, hopefully for most of you out there, you're in the firm, you were the person that inspected it, you were the person who wrote the estimate. That's the best case scenario, right? You were there, from start to finish. You pretty much know a lot about that file without having to thoroughly study it. But there will be times as experts where you'll be called to opine, or provide some kind of opinion in a situation where maybe the original writer is no longer with us. So, that's where that prepare and understand and study the file really comes from. Another technique, do a mock deposition. Grab another PA, grab somebody else, in industry that you trust. Go maybe find an attorney that you trust and say, hey, I got this deposition coming up. Would you mind, firing rounds at me so that I can, respond and you can give me feedback on how I'm doing.
So I have a quick question for you. And again, I'm not asking these questions from an interview standpoint. Again, this is just a discussion. Because when I find myself in the rumble of a deposition, and I really look at it like that because you're squared off with somebody, and more than likely they're formidable, right? I mean, they've got a lot of information on their side that you, not as an attorney, have on their side that you don't have on your side. They also are in control because they know what they're going to say, and they probably have a pretty decent idea of what you're going to say. And so they kind of have the upper hand in that level. But Jess, I would ask this question: how much of that deposition, especially early on in it, do they come after your personal character? You know what I mean? Like we saw this on Facebook, or we noticed that this is what your credit report says, and all of those kinds of things. I'm just, you're behind on this, and you're behind on your mortgage, or that kind of thing, where they try to question your character. So how much of that do they do, and how effective is it? Is really my, because you want to have answers for these things. You know what I mean? Right. So that's why I asked the question.
And it is a really good question because it will happen. And it has happened to friends of mine, people that are very good people that may have had some skeletons in their closet from long, long ago. We're talking 20 years ago, and it's unfortunate, but they do. They dig it up and they want to push buttons. And for me, I don't know, maybe it was because I was military, I had a top secret clearance, I lived a very boring life. Maybe I didn't have anything for them to dig up, but they still tried to discredit me, because I came into the industry so late in my career. I was prior service military, 15 years, Department of Defense, military, what have you. I didn't have a construction background. I didn't have a claims background. I didn't have all these things. So the first thing they did try to do is discredit me in that regard.
Sure.
You're coming to us with no experience. Well, what makes you an expert? Well, I attended IA school. I attended a PA school. I got IICRC certified. I got a thermography, certification. I took Xactimate level 1 and 2 from, Steve Harmon. Reputable companies, reputable institutions, or whatnot. I made up for that in education.
I guess my answer would be as well, you subpoenaed me. Why am I here? I would like to know why I am here. If you want to, you're the one that wrote the subpoena. So if you want to know why I'm here, I think you might want to look inward for that answer. So if you got some questions, I'm more than happy to answer them to the best of my ability. But, you might check your reasoning. And why should we listen to you? I don't know. You're the one that wanted to ask me questions. So, I'll do the best I can, and hopefully I give you what you're looking for, or not give you what you're looking for, I guess, in some cases.
There was a friend of mine, they said they questioned her motherhood.
Yeah.
Because of a past.
That's kind of
like, what? What?
And I don't know that would ever
dirty.
I don't know that would really ever discredit you as a expert witness or in a field of something. It's more to rattle you, I would think.
That's right.
It's because they're wanting to live rent free right between your ears is where they're wanting to get into your head. And so if they can make you stumble and make you even question and doubt yourself, that is going to come through in all of your answers. So I know, I believe that that's the point of it, because more than likely a jury's never going to hear this. But on the chance that they do, just know that this is not the last time you're going to have to answer this question. And so any of those skeletons that you have in your closet, or anything that that it's of public record, especially those things that are of public record, like if you've ever been sued or any of those kinds of things, they're going to know. They're going to know about it. And trust me, trust me, they're going to ask about it and they're going to use it to discredit you. I know that just from me sort of asking different attorneys. That's job number one. That's what they go in and that's what they do, whether it's with, and then they'll move into your professional discreditation or whatever, trying to remove that. I know, and I've somebody, I had a public adjuster friend of mine, and we both worked for a large national carrier that we had to get a certification in order to work claims for, and he had to go through a deposition with this particular carrier, and they asked him, "Why should we trust your Xactimate estimate?" And his response was, "Well, y'all trained me how to use it. It was okay when I was writing claims for you. Why wouldn't it be okay now? All I've
That's
done is
funny.
learn more. You seem to like my estimates when I knew less than I do now. So what's the problem with it now?" And that was his answer. And then they just literally moved on. And I just thought that was sort of a juggernaut of an answer. It's like, y'all trained me. So I write the same estimate I've always written.
Yeah, so that would be another thing to prepare for. Prepare for them to try to discredit you on a personal level and try to discredit you on a professional level. And if there are some skeletons or some, professional gaps in experience or whatever, be prepared for that to be thrown at you and prepare to just kind of brush that off as,
Them trying to get
how
in
is
your
that
head.
relevant to the claim?
Yeah, because
How
you
is
did.
that relevant to
Yeah.
the claim?
Right. Yeah. How is that relevant? Because whether you can write an Xactimate or not write an Xactimate, because you're not really there to be a professional estimator or a contractor. That's not the reason that you're there. What your job is and what you're claiming to be an expert in, the reason that you've entered this claim process, let's be clear. What is your job? What is your level of expertise? Is aiding the policyholder in fulfilling and completing the duties after a loss. And if you've done that with a level of expertise, whether it's gathering estimates or writing an estimate yourself, whatever the case may be. And it's like, why do you think your estimate is better? Well, I submitted it to multiple contractors and they seem to be able to do it for that price. Those are things. And one of the things that I teach in Control the Narrative, which is coming up on March the 5th, one of the things that I teach in Control the Narrative is that you have to have a healthy amount of experts sort of behind you that kind of corroborate what you're saying, and that's the most important thing. But when they try to attack sort of your character and your professional capability, I would always just lean on the fact it's like, look, man, I didn't, make a reservation to be here today. And so if you've got questions, I'll do my best to answer your questions, but I'm not here to defend my credibility. You called me here. And so that's why I'm here. So let's be clear. I'm not here to prove you wrong and them right or vice versa or any of that. I am here to answer your questions. I'm not here because I want to be, because trust me, I'd almost rather be anywhere else. And why should you listen to me? I don't know. That depends on your questions. And it's completely related to the questions that you're asking. Maybe we can look at that at the end, and that's what I would stand on. You are not required to know everything. And that's the one thing I've had every attorney that I've talked to about depositions is you are not required to know everything there is to know about whatever it is that they're asking you. What they're hoping to do is get you to give a longer answer than really you need to, and for you to speculate, because the moment you speculate, that's when they can rip you to shreds, and you have then stood out as an expert, and then they expose you as you're putting something on the record that you don't have any business talking about. So most importantly, what I would say is keep your mouth shut and answer the question that they ask in that question only. You know what I mean? So don't try to get in there and show them how smart you are and how quickly you can dance around the attorney's questions. And just because you've watched every episode of Perry Mason doesn't mean you know what's coming.
You don't want to be on the record as an ultra crepidarian.
Yeah, somebody who doesn't know anything about what they're giving
That
an
is so
opinion on.
fitting.
I got to use it in a
Say.
sentence.
Yeah. You don't want to be ultra, what is it?
Ultra crepidarian.
Ultra crepidarianistic.
Crepidarian.
Let's add another syllable to that impossible SAT word.
Ultra crepidarianistically.
Right. While my answer may be ultra crepidarian, I would say if you're going to force me to have an opinion. Anyway, there we go. That's those are fun word games with baby cakes. What else are some of the things? And I didn't mean to just go on pontificating about something I don't know about, because I've just not been in a lot of depositions. So what are other things that we should prepare for? So we've got, be prepared to answer questions about yourself. Obviously, the file. You know what I mean? So what are some other things, and as far as organizational skills that we should prepare for?
Something else is to have your CV at the ready. So you can have, typically they like to ask for that in advance. But sometimes during depositions, they'll say, I don't think I ever received that. Would you mind sending it and dropping it into the comment box? That's not exactly the time for you to go, I don't have one. So making sure you have a CV at the ready, if they don't already have it, that also.
Okay, yeah, a CV. I've heard that too. That's really great. Have your CV
curriculum vitae.
Yeah, right. And I think that's a really good idea. Have your CV at the ready. So when it comes to CV, there's no reason to inflate that. It's just like, if you want to ask me questions, I'm happy to answer them. But here's my qualifications. Like it or don't like it. You've asked me to be here. You know what I mean? And my job. And again, I want to go back to, no matter what your CV says, the duties after a loss are pretty clear cut, and they're not super complicated. You know what I mean? Now, as a public adjuster, there's some things that we do when we go to performing the duties after the loss. One of the things that you should be doing is being able to determine causation, and whether that causation is a covered peril, and whether or not coverage is absolutely available, and what the available coverages are as it pertains to that loss. So I'm not saying that it's just as simple as going out and getting an estimate from a contractor, because it is considerably more complicated than that, in gathering the documentation that's required to absolutely prove the loss. So if you're not doing all of those things, you may find yourself in a deposition sorely unprepared that makes this thing turn out to look like a frivolous lawsuit. So, I know one of the things, attorneys do, don't they kind of hire their own expert from time to time, Jess?
Yes.
Okay. So that's the other thing that they do to make sure that they have a case. Well, guys, that's the end of round one. These are the things to prepare for. Round two is going to be a lot of fun, because these are things we're going to talk about, the things that you can do. And these are things that you should do. We're going to get into that in round two. It starts right after this.
One of the most difficult claims you can work is a contents claim. It requires extreme detail and significant documentation. Ricky McGregor with Monarch Claim Services is the expert you need on your side. She will handle on-site evaluation, inventory, photo documentation, pricing, and overall contents claim organization. She will work with your team beginning to end so you can focus on the rest of the claim. Do your client a favor and call Ricky McGregor with Monarch Claim Services. You can reach her at 515-783-1434. That's 515-783-1434, or find her on the web at monarchclaimservices.com.
Round two, what you should do. So, Jess, I throw it to you. What are things we should be doing in a deposition? Tell me.
Several things. One is to remain calm and collected. I know that sounds so like no duh, but especially when in your first 1, 2, or whatever, it is very natural for you to feel nervous, unsure, and it will come out, especially because you're doing Zooms and you're being recorded. I don't know, maybe there's a little bit of benefit to having some of these done by Zoom, because you're not in the same room, and so you don't feel everyone else's tension or whatever, but it can still be picked up through voice and face expressions and how fast you answer your questions. If you before the deposition or whatever, do some breathing techniques, yoga, whatever it is, whatever helps you calm down and get composed.
6 shots of
And
tequila.
then 2, if you're starting to get worked up, like somebody's really started pushing your buttons, and because it will happen, it's not a question of if, but it will happen. They're going to push your buttons. Take a break. You can request a break. That allows you to regroup, refocus, and bring yourself back down. You can have as many breaks as necessary. So don't be afraid to ask for them.
Do they set those
So
rules prior
that's
to the deposition beginning, prior to them asking you questions? Do they kind of let you know sort of what the, for lack of a better term, the etiquette of what is going to happen in this and what you can, not necessarily what you can and can't do, but more of what is expected of you and what your liberties are? Did they do that kind of instruction, or is that something that the attorney that is representing you or representing the policyholder kind of prepares you for?
typically most of the opposing counsel, so the folks representing the carriers, they'll mention that, hey, if you need a break, just let me know, raise your hand, or whatever in the Zoom. So yeah, they usually do. They say, it's, don't forget, we'll take a break. They say sometimes they'll pre-schedule some, especially if they know it's going to be a longer deposition. They'll say something like, we'll take a 5-minute break at the 45-minute mark or something like that. Usually they'll have something for you. Yeah.
Um,
So
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I was going to ask a
yeah,
really dumb question, so I'm just not going to ask that question because you remember when we were talking kind of off air about my cousin Vinny and Marissa Tomei wanting to do all of those kind of questions? I think that would be, and that'll be round 3. You know what I mean? So I'll get back.
yes, it will be
into it.
round 3.
I think I have, and one of the things that Jess had told me, and she sort of opened the show about this. Why it's near and dear is the law firm that she was working with told her, you suck at this. And I am quite certain that because people who like to talk and they're rather verbal people and they're communicators by nature, they are probably, that is not the place to break out your superpower. And I think that would be the hardest thing for me, especially when they ask you sort of those double-edged sword questions like, are you just inexperienced or are you just negligent? You know what I mean? Those
Now,
kinds of those hard questions, like no matter what I answer, it casts me in a bad light. Do they ever do anything like that? And can you say neither or refuse to answer something like that?
I have fortunately never been asked that type of question, but I think it's because they figured me out early on enough. I'm very technical, very detailed, knows the facts and the thises and the that's, right? And that is a weakness that can be picked up, and they will ask you, so why don't you tell me about this? And oh, well, let me let you know. Okay, in the S500 manual, there's on page 16, there's a definition that says this, and then there's this, and then there's that, and then you start running your mouth. And so the people that are very technical, that take that pride in knowledge, tend to overshare. So we'll get into that in round 3. But for this round, what you're alluding to is answering only the question that is asked. It's like, and that reminds me of a scene in My Cousin Vinny, Mrs. Riley, and only Mrs. Riley. Like,
Right.
that's the only one that needs to be answering this question. So answer the question here, and here's what I'm gonna throw this example out at you, Jeremy.
Yes.
Do you know what time it is?
Yes, I do.
That's the right answer.
So I shouldn't say
Most
it's 4:21 or whatever time it is. I can't.
exactly.
Yeah, because you
Yes,
want to give respond to the question, not to the information they're inquiring about. Respond to the question. Yeah.
So to answer only the question that is asked, you first have to listen carefully to each word in the question asked. One of the techniques that I was coached to do, and I just thank you for this one. It is count to 5, formulate your answer, and then when you give your answer, you're making a statement and also kind of repeating the question at the same time. So, for example, is the sky blue? Count to 5 in your head. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
It depends.
Yes, the sky is blue.
During the
You know,
day.
that it well, right? Well, there's that. But you, in
Sorry.
other words, you say the yes or the no, but have where you have restated the question. That then gives opposing counsel opportunity to say, okay, maybe I asked this, I chose the wrong word. What I really wanted to ask you was this question. So listen to each word in the question being asked, count to 5 under your breath, formulate your answer, and repeat the question, but in the form of a statement. And then if you don't know, holy cow, you guys, you can say, I don't know.
I think that
And that
that's
is a
really, yeah.
perfectly acceptable answer.
Yeah, I
Perfect.
think,
I did not realize that that's a perfectly acceptable
yeah, I
answer
don't
for
know.
an expert anywhere to say.
Yeah, right. And that's what you don't want to appear. Saying I don't know seems to be self-discrediting to what they're asking you about, but that is not, nobody knows everything. Especially when it comes to circumstantial, what size hail hit the roof? I don't know. I can tell you what was reported by somebody else, but basically anything that I know came from a report. I wasn't there. I wasn't
Right.
there, so I cannot testify to what size hail hit the roof. There are
Yep.
several reporting agencies that have stated what the average size was, but I don't know what actually fell on that roof. And moreover, any of those reports, here I am rambling on again, that's, and I'm sitting here just thinking about that. If you don't know, you don't know. And I think that that's the point I'm trying to make, Jess, is if they ask you what size hail hit the roof, that becomes testimony of things that you don't know because you weren't there. And so unless you
Right.
witnessed it with your eyeballs, do you know what I mean? Like, what kind of mold was
Right.
in the house? I don't know. I can tell you what
Right.
was reported, but I don't know because I did not personally test it. So I can't testify with any sort of accuracy other than what I've been told. And you and I have been told the same thing. So why are you asking me? I don't know. I don't have any different answer than the same information that you got. So I think that that's important to remember, is like, and one of the things that you can do is you don't know, because if you don't know and you were not an absolute, experiential witness to it, the answer to the question is I don't know. You don't know what size hail hit the roof? No, I do not. I have no idea, and neither does anybody else. And it's like, because even though, and I say this not to answer the attorney, but I say this for those of you who don't know, Jess, tell us all where radar stops.
I think most of it's 50 miles, right?
Well,
50-mile radius.
no, the highest that it goes.
To be honest, I can't remember.
It's
2,000
400 feet. It's about 400 feet.
See, I told you I don't really know.
So it's about 400 feet, and depending on the kind of radar that they're using, it may even be higher than that. But
That's what I was going to get.
But the reason radar stops at 400 feet is because there's a lot of structures that are that tall, and radar doesn't really work, right? Because radar is essentially line of sight. So if something interrupts that radar, you can't say with any degree of accuracy. And so think about these houses and all of the structures that are taller than a house, so they don't know. Even the reports that you're getting don't know what size hail hit the house. They knew what size it was when it was at 600, 700, 800 feet, but they don't know what size it was. I mean, these are all best guesses, right? So you don't know. And I think that that's the biggest thing that gets you out of anything from, because I'm an expert, I don't have any problem saying I don't know. Because I think that's one of the things that makes you an expert in certain things, is knowing when to say, I don't know. And if you don't know it, and you don't, because these things are all, because the idea here is the things I know would fall under the category of exculpatory evidence. And if it doesn't fall under the category of exculpatory evidence, and it only falls under the category of circumstantial evidence, which are eyewitness accounts, those kinds of things, then you cannot speak to it, because it would either be hearsay, it would be all kinds of different things. Jess, did you have something? I'll shut up.
No, I was just agreeing with you, the hearsay thing too. I know that sometimes on some of the depositions, I was asked to provide expert opinion on an estimate. And then there was clearly a copy paste error. I mean, it was an assumption, right? The house had been empty, but this public adjuster had accidentally put a pack out estimate in there. It looked like copy paste because I had seen it in one or two of the other estimates, right? So, I mean, and they asked, why would this public adjuster have put this pack out in here on an empty house? I do not know.
Yeah, you
I
don't
do
know.
not know.
Yeah.
It looked like a copy paste error, but you don't say that. You don't say, "Oh yeah, that just seems to me like a copy paste error." You're speculating.
Don't do their job
You
for
just
them.
say, "I
Right.
don't know." Yep.
I completely agree with that, Donna. Is like, don't do their job for them. Don't help them with information that they're not absolutely requesting, because I think that's the idea. Is it's up to you to figure out what questions to ask me. Before I give you anything, you got to know what I mean, because I'm not going to tell you. You know what I mean? So that's on you to figure out. And I think all of this is like super helpful. Because as you're telling it to me, it begins to make it makes conceptual sense to me, like when you're going in there. But I have, as anybody who's ever listened to this show knows, that I have a hard time finding the breaks when it comes to talking, and I think that
No.
come on now. That was a self-confession there. You didn't have to pile on.
Yeah, punch him while he's down. Kick him while he's down. I mean,
jeez, right in the ribs on that one. I think that was a kidney shot. You know what I mean? And then she punched me in the back of the head. No, I did that, and I personally would struggle with that. That would be very difficult for me. And is that why they said that you sucked? Is because you like to explain things? Because I know that the information's important to you. You know what I mean? So that
yes,
you have a clear understanding.
I would try, and this is why I sucked. And don't do this, PAs. Do not do it. Okay, I've already embarrassed the crap out of myself. Don't do it. I would think as they're answering the question and the series of questioning, I felt like, oh my God, I already know where this is going. I'm just going to cut the head off at this, the snake, and we're going to put this to bed. I'm going to go ahead and clarify before they have to ask me these other 10 questions I know they're going to get. No, that's not your job. It is their job to ask you. It goes back to the what time. Do you know what time it is? Well, yes, it's 4:30. No, stop. You thought ahead. You made assumptions on what they were going to ask next. Stop. That is not your job. It is their job. Like you hit the nail on the head. It is their job to formulate the correct questions to ask you. If they ask you, do you know what time it is? You count to 5. You say, yes, I do know what time it is, and say nothing more, even though it is human nature to go, oh, well, yeah, you want to be helpful, right? Yeah, I know what he's asking next. He's going to say, what is the time? So I'm just going to go ahead and help him out and just let him know it's 4:20.
So, I mean, I'm gonna say this, just sort of kind of put a bow on it. One of the things that I'm just given, like, one of my giftings is to be a teacher. And if you want to find out what a great teacher I am, please show up on March the 5th to the Controlling the Narrative seminar. Anyway, no, I like to teach. And so relating and communicating information for the purposes of consumption and application is something that matters to me. And so and you've got to redirect that. So one of the things that I think that I would use just to slow myself down and possibly really frustrate the shit out of the other attorney is like, can you repeat the question?
Yes. And there's nothing against doing that either.
Yeah, they can't
repeat the question.
Can you please repeat the question? And that gives you some time to think about what you're doing. And that's just a really good sort of device that you can throw out there to kind of slow yourself down. Can you repeat the question? And that guy will go crazy on that. I know I would. I know it'd drive me crazy.
And the last thing is to spell out acronyms that you're using or certain industry specific jargon or whatever. Like if you say, well, the IICRC, for example, spell it out. Institute of Inspection, Cleaning, and Restoration Certification. Like that kind of goes back to the preparation, right? Like some of us
I would
use the
have to
terms
say,
and half
I
the
would
time
have to say, I don't
we don't
know.
even know what it means.
I have no idea. It's a standard that I was made aware of, and it's a book that I've never read, but I heard one time that so I wouldn't be able to speak to the IICRC standard. You know what I mean? I have picked up a lot. At one point in time, I was certified, but it was like long time ago. And I know that there have been things that have changed, I believe, you know what I mean, through different versions and things like that. I would not want to speak with any sort of, I mean, I know it informs kind of how I investigate a loss. There are things that I know, like, you know, the category of water, but I am not certified to really even speak to what it is. And anything that I really know about it that comes from any sort of recent understanding is from just a bunch of shit somebody told me. You know what I'm saying? And I retain the information. I'll pick up the phone and call Jess and go, "Hey, Jess, if this is the loss and this is where the water went, what category water is this and how should I operate?" And then she's going to tell me, "Well, Jeremy, that's category 3. That's a category 3. What's the other classification? There's 2 different classifications usually with water. Level
one's
3.
class, one's category, and the other's class 1, class 2, class 3, class 4.
Yeah, so it's a category 3, class 3. Well, I don't know that, but I will go and you know, estimate and investigate kind of with that sort of stuff, and I'm going to, you know, use those sorts of protocols, and I'm going to get some loose information, but that's what informs my estimate and what I understood it to be. But I'm in no way an expert, and I think here's the other thing that I want to point out before we get into round 3. It's okay to be wrong. You know what I mean? And as long as you can support your reasoning, there's nothing wrong with being wrong, because I can tell you this: carriers are wrong all the time. And because I don't even have to go to a deposition to know that a carrier's wrong. And I would question some of their estimating skills as well. So more than likely, if you're a PA and you're a working PA, you're going to be way more prepared for answering questions about that claim than anybody that ever worked on the carrier side, I would believe. You know what I mean? Because you're going to have more firsthand information than the desk adjuster would. You know, they may call in the independent adjuster, but again, his answers are, this is what the guidelines told me to do. This is what I was instructed to do. And that's generally the veil that they hide behind. So any final thoughts? I mean, I know I final thoughted there for like 20 minutes, but
No,
anything
just
else to add?
to wrap that up, I didn't mean to pick IICRC specifically, just meant to use it as an example.
Yeah, right.
If you use acronyms, spell it out.
I don't know.
Sound, you know, what it is.
Right. So yeah, spell out your acronyms and know your abbreviation. So if you plan on referring to it, make sure on the night before what we told you when you're preparing, know your acronyms when you go in. And do they let you have notes? Can you have notes basically to refresh your memory, or do you have to go in there just all off the top of your head?
I'm going to count to 5. I'm going to say, I do not know the official answer to that question.
Okay, great. You know what? I mean, if it's on Zoom, I'm sure they can't control what you've got. I guess they could do some things. But anyway, well, guys, we're going to get into the thing.
I can't imagine they wouldn't let you with notes,
Right.
but now I'm opining. You know.
Right. I mean, like, they're my acronyms. I want to make sure that I remember them because I'm going to be nervous. And there's things that you know really quickly if you're just talking to your buddy at the water cooler. If you're just talking to your buddy at the water cooler, or, you know, you're talking like you can talk about football, but the moment it becomes a lawyer and it goes down on the record and you know that you have to be accurate, some of that very, you know, instant recall memory kind of checks out on you. So, you know, just again, study that stuff and be ready to go. Guys, we're going to get into the things that you shouldn't do in round 3, and it starts right after this. When choosing someone to help with your online marketing, make sure you go with someone that has years of experience. Our good friend Sally at Thrive has over 20 years of digital marketing experience. She can build you a beautiful 15-page, sleek, interactive website, post on your social media platforms multiple times a week. She can do a video, an amazing CRM to manage, and maintain and nurture your clients' text, email marketing, review generation, a business listing on 60 plus search engines, including 3 voice networks, appointment scheduling, estimates, invoices, payment processing, and more. She will also create for you on Google, a Facebook page, in Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. If you need these for your businesses, she'll help you create those pages on all of those sites. If you already have these pages, she'll optimize them for you as well. Call or message Sally today. If you want to get started, you can reach her at 214-789-1651. Again, her name is Sally Brigance. Her number is 214-789-1651. And you'll also get a landing page the day you sign up. When you send her a referral that signs up with her, she'll credit your billing account. Logos are also available, and she also offers a lead generation service and SEO, search engine optimization, where she can guarantee you to appear on the first page of Google or your money back. It is spelled THRYB, and you can find my good friend Sally Brigance, and that's spelled SALLIE, Brigance, BRIGANCE, and she can be reached once again at 214-789-1651.
Round 3, what you shouldn't do. Well, we've done 2 rounds here, and I think we've talked a lot about what you shouldn't do, but let's go ahead and revisit these things so that at least we have a category, that we're kind of lumping these things together. And I think this is going to be a much easier conversation. So what is the thing that's swimming around in the top of your head? First thing out of your mouth, Jess, what do you not do?
I would definitely say, going back to, don't volunteer too much information.
Right.
Stick to the scope of the question and not like throw the role, the whole manual, so to speak, at the opposing counsel. Stick to the facts, and only, again, going back to only what question was asked. Even if you know the line of the questioning that's coming next, let them do it. That's their job. Just because you don't 100% know, sometimes you just think you know. Like I said, oh man, my first few were so bad. So definitely don't volunteer too much information. The second is when they ask the question. Oh God, I used to do this all the time. It was so bad. I would just like, yep, I already got the answer. I got the answer. And as soon as they finished the question, I immediately started answering. That's a huge no-no. And count to 5 has been beat into my head over and over and over again. And you really do formulate a much better answer to just the question when you stop and think of the words. It is so annoying to sit there and count to 5 after every stinking question, but it is such a good thing to practice and put into practice so that it becomes muscle memory. That's the thing you're looking for. Practice so that it becomes muscle memory. The next one you kind of hit the head on already, and that's the guessing or speculating.
Oh,
because
man.
as soon as you
And I'm the one that would do that. What's the word of the day? I
gotta write that down. Hold on.
What's the word of
How do
the
you spell
day?
that?
It's ultra-crepidarian.
Golly.
How do you spell that? I gotta write this one down.
ultracrepidarian.
Holy Moses.
Ultra-crepidarian. Do not be ultra-crepidarian. 87% of all facts are 100% false.
Ultra-crepidariously speaking.
Another one is interrupting.
Oh God!
Sometimes
I would do that. I would do that. Like
you just did it.
I just did
it. Okay, so sometimes, and I've done it a handful of times myself, that they're trying to twist your words. They're trying to twist what you were saying into just something is not how you meant it whatsoever. And as soon as they start asking that next question where they twist your words around, you want to just snap and just bite the head off and say, "Excuse me, that is not what I said." Let them get the question out. Count to 5 because that keeps your composure as well. Because, like we said in the first round, they are going to push your buttons. They're going to. It's not if they are going to
That's a
push your buttons.
tactic. That's a very real tactic. I'm going to throw one here in the middle is if you find yourself getting frustrated or agitated, do what she said, take a break. Don't let your frustration take over in a deposition. You really need to remain calm, I would think. You know what I'm saying? You got to keep your wits about you, because once you lose your shit, that's not something you can walk back, because everything is on the record at that point in time and they'll hold you to it. You know what I mean? So, um, that is,
Speaking of record, they share them. The, the carriers share them. It's
yeah.
you have a dossier of your own once you
Oh
start doing
wow. Yeah.
these,
Once you,
and they
yeah,
will.
yeah. So they pull up information. So, you know, Country Ranch is going to call over and call, Half State, and Half State is going to share. These attorneys talk to each other. They play golf. It's like, what's the information that you have on Jessica Odell? Oh yeah, we've got a dossier on Jessica Odell. Here's the things that she already testified that she knew. You know what I mean? And that was last week. So if she tries to say that she knows something else, I mean, those are all things. That's all fair game. You know what I mean? And the biggest thing, and kind of going back to the thing that you said is don't speculate. Don't be ultra crepidarian about anything for the purposes of making you appear to be more of an expert, or at least I think I would be more inclined if they tried to disqualify me early on, that I would try to opine on something as though it were fact. I am telling you, that is something that would be a blind spot and a weak spot for me, for sure.
It's rough. When you become defensive, it does. It's really tough because you want to defend your honor, you want to defend the company that you were working for, you want to defend the insured, you want to, you and you take offense too that this person is trying to attack you and for something that has absolutely nothing to do with the claim.
Well,
But you can't get it.
I've said in multiple shows, one of the things that you have to realize is your role as a public adjuster is that you are not the arbiter of justice here. And I think sometimes you walk in with that weight on your shoulders. I mean, a lot of times it's placed there by yourself. You are wanting to bring a good outcome. At some level, you've put your reputation and your integrity out there. And so the weight of that gets really, really heavy. You know what I'm saying? Don't let that inform your answers. So, I mean, again, most of the questions I believe that attorneys ask are not open-ended, so tell me your story. You know what I mean? It's more yes or no.
Right.
It's like, were you an independent adjuster prior to being a public adjuster? Yes. How long were you an independent adjuster? 6 years. Did you work for carriers? Yes, I worked for carriers. They're not going to ask for, most of the questions that they're going to ask are going to be very closed ended, because
so that they can send you down a road.
Yeah, right. And so they're not going to let you, rabbit trail off into something else, because that is how they direct the conversation. And one of the things that I even do with desk adjusters is, I do a very similar thing. Sometimes I'm able to have the entire conversation with them, especially if we're working together and there's a rapport. But often I have to sprinkle these questions in through multiple conversations or emails where they are absolute yes and no questions. And here's one of my favorite yes or no questions that I ask a desk adjuster all the time. Is it your intention to indemnify this claim? And I hardly ever get a yes or no. They try to qualify and explain it. It's like, so is that a yes or is that a no? Well, it depends. I was like, does it really depend? You know what I mean? And so that's where, and so what I would encourage you to do is, like, if you don't want to answer either yes or no, or because it depends, you know, I don't, what is the thing that you shouldn't do there? I mean, it's like, if it's neither yes or no, and it truly depends on the situation, I hate to go back to round 2 here, but I would have to do that. I mean, what are the things that you do? Is like, I decline to answer, because it's not like you don't know. I mean, what's the answer there when it's not really a yes or no in your mind? It's not that simple.
You can count to 5 again, because that's muscle memory. I'm telling you, just if you don't, just count to 5 every single time. Count to 5, please. Regather your thoughts and just say, can you please restate the question? Because 9 times out of 10, they're going to realize the way they asked it was too open, and whatever. They will reword it, and sometimes you'll get clarity just in that in and of itself. So you can just say, can you please restate the question? And then if it comes back, you can say, that depends. Now, if they say, on what? I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what I would do from the on what
The
scenario, but
situation.
usually they'll rephrase it, the question, to get, because they already know the answer. They know the answer they're looking for. That's the other thing I was made aware of. They're not asking you questions because they truly don't know. They already know what answer they are trying to arrive, or get you to say. That's the reasoning for the question. So simply just asking them to restate the question, it might fix itself.
When I was a teenager, my dad used to tell me, if I ask you a question, I already know the answer. So, like,
Well, yeah.
where were you last night? Be careful what you say,
No
because he already knows.
Well, generally, yeah, right. There's a lot of questions that they're going to ask that they've already researched and found the answer, and they're just giving you an opportunity to, I mean, I hate to say the P word here, but perjure yourself in a sworn deposition. And if you do that and they find out, look, if that happens, I mean, Jess, have you ever heard of somebody doing that? I mean, would they prosecute that, in your opinion?
I
If you
don't
just
know, to
out
be
and out
honest.
perjured yourself and they caught you or whatever.
I'm not sure. I haven't been in that situation, and I don't know. Yeah, I don't know of anybody that's been in that situation either.
Yeah. The point is,
I'm actually quite surprised at how many public adjusters don't get to post on their files.
yeah,
I
well,
don't know if maybe, maybe there's just a push, because I worked a lot of hurricane claims,
yeah.
and maybe that was
Right. Well,
a lot.
and the states that you've worked in, as far as these hurricane claims, are very litigious states anyway. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because of the nature
Yes.
of the insurance laws that exist. Like in Louisiana, for example, the public adjuster
Buddy.
can't argue the policy, and so basically, most public adjusters that are operating at a high level in Louisiana are for the most part working as court experts on behalf of an attorney. You know what I mean? And so the public adjuster is a part of the pre-trial due diligence, if you will. So,
Yes. So yeah,
I
I
mean,
don't really know of anyone
the biggest thing I could
that's
tell you
been
is don't lie. You know what I mean? That
oh,
is, yeah,
right.
don't lie, and it's like, even if it makes you look bad or it torpedoes the case, it's one case, it's one loss in the grand landscape, because the last thing we need is at a minimum, losing your license for perjuring yourself. You are no longer somebody, because that is really and truly a crime of moral turpitude that could call into question your integrity to even work files anymore. And I'm telling you, there's not enough public adjusters out there as it is. We don't need
Right.
we don't need to be losing them because they're trying to show somebody in a deposition how smart they are, because nobody cares how smart you are. That is so don't go in there trying to prove how smart you are, or don't. And the other thing I would say, the big don't that kind of flashes in my head is that don't get competitive in a deposition. Don't try to get them in there and try to prove them wrong and show them how smart you are. Don't do that. Just go in there and answer the questions. And you should go in there with a fair amount of reverence, is what I would say, and be prepared to listen to what they're asking. And I would tell you, I wouldn't be combative in any kind of way, but if you need something to slow you down, kind of what we suggested, like what Jessica said, is slow down, count to 5. You know what I mean? But if I had counted to 5, by that time I will have forgotten the question, and I would have to say, repeat the question, please. Those little things that you have to do, especially until you kind of settle into the deposition and the nerves kind of calm down. You know what I mean? That is one of the things, because I think I would be super nervous. I don't know. I mean, were you nervous when you first sat down in it, Jess? Was that something
Sorry, sir. Can
were you
you
nervous?
repeat the question?
Were you nervous when you first sat down in
Oh,
you weren't nervous at all, or were you?
I was big time nervous. Yes, because the only kind of I'd watched Suits, I had watched My Cousin Vinny, I've watched all these different shows, right? And so I was, and coming from an intelligence, you know, community background where we do interrogations, I kind of felt like I've seen all of that, and I was nervous that I would crack, right? Because I'm a whatever you'd like to know, whatever would be helpful to you. So I knew that was going to be my weakness. So I was very nervous. Um, and the whole count to 5 thing sounds so easy, but it is so hard to do.
It really is. Again, the biggest thing is that I guess the reason that I want to push this is probably because at some level I'm cloaking all of you in my own shortcomings. Is like, I'm an incredibly competitive person. And moreover, more than I am competitive, I generally think and know I'm right. And when you walk in there with the idea that, hey, I'm right and I'm about to show these guys a thing or two, you've probably already given up half the battle at that point in time, because they've got you right where they want you. So one of the things you don't do is walk in there thinking you're right. Walk in there as clear-headed as you possibly can without any kind of preconceived notions. If they ask me this, I'm going to say that. And if they come at me with this, I'm going to come at them with that, because they are going to come out of left field and knock you in the side of the head. And the reality is that's going to happen to anybody. That's what they're trained to do. They're there to knock you off balance. And so the biggest thing is go in there with your sea legs and be ready for stuff you're not ready for. So and just don't let it knock you off, and just remember some of these little techniques and mnemonic devices that we've kind of thrown at you to prepare yourself for that. But most of all, I would like to say, talk to the attorney that you're working with and kind of see, ask him sort of what direction that you think they're going to go and what direction he would go if he were on the other side of the table. I want to be clear about something. Jess and I are not attorneys. Anything that we have said in here should not be construed as legal advice or legal direction in anything. Always contact an attorney if you have any kind of legal questions whatsoever. Jess, do you have any final thoughts or anything that you want to leave these good people with prior to Thanksgiving?
No, I just say, shoot, reach out to me.
Yeah.
I can tell you all the things I did wrong, and don't go at it alone. Many of us have messed up,
Most important. Yeah,
and we
guys.
don't mind.
Yeah,
We support
absolutely.
you. Yeah, we don't mind being vulnerable for a moment so that you can get out there and succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. So, guys, if you do have those questions or comments, please feel free to drop them in the chat below on whatever site you may have found the link to this. We're going to, we kind of cover all of them. So we'll be happy to answer any kind of questions. If
They
you
might be hearing this after Thanksgiving.
They might be. So we either hope you have a great Thanksgiving, or we hope that your Thanksgiving was outstanding and you're headed into the Christmas season. Either way, if you like this, make sure that you click that like and subscribe button. If you find this useful and you know a friend that's about to head into a deposition, make sure you share this with that friend. Guys, we couldn't do this without you. Your support is always appreciated. Remember, if you want any information on the Control the Narrative class that's coming up, please go to remedyclaims.com www.deposition.com/training and fill out the information. We're going to be opening up registration very soon. But in the meantime, we will be back next week. So stay ready so you don't have to get ready. And we will see you on the next one.
Get my hand on the hammer, ready to ram you like the fire slammer jammer. Yes, we're coming up, don't even try to diminish it. I won't start it, but I damn sure will finish it.
I like that one.